friends, how are you doing? I just wanted to make a little pop-up video here talking about Pltr. You know who they are. Palantir Technologies and what could possibly be going on in here in September. I fully believe that Palantir has a lot of ammunition to run hard here this month. Obviously, the rate cuts, all that kind of stuff. This week will be very interesting in the market. It's going to be a lot of in our face all week here in the market. We got job reports, we've got some inflation stuff coming out, but nonetheless too, the market is closed Monday. This is gonna suck. But we open back up Tuesday. I suspect we'll see some maybe volatility this week, but too, the market could be going like, hey, we're wanting some bad news because we want all the ammunition we need to get these rate cuts here in September, because the Feds will be meeting back up here very soon. And two, the Feds have gone dark starting this week where they're not allowed to talk publicly about the economy, anything like that. So pretty much, there won't really be anything after this week where the Feds will be talking, anyone will be saying anything. So let's get right into this situation with Palantir. Now, obviously, Dan Ives, you've heard me say this. It's not a secret. He is very bullish on very bullish on Palantir, where he thinks this is going into a $1 trillion market cap. He thinks Palantir is really just getting started and fundamentally really pushing into just a whole new stream of revenue going into the next 5 years plus. And there's a lot of evidence to support that. You have to understand that Dan Ives is very much in he is in Wall Street, okay? He's seeing things that a lot of us aren't seeing. He's even Tom Lee talked about this last week in an interview where he talked about, personal situations with Palantir where he had talked to a company that had hired Palantir to work for them, and Palantir had just completely revolutionized their company, made them more money, all this kind of stuff. And it was nice to hear something like that where you're hearing actual things that Palantir is doing out there. I think a lot of us are just used to hearing, well, Palantir got another deal. Palantir is working with this company, X, this, that. That's what we're used to hearing. But when we get to hear about, people actually seeing what Palantir is doing, what's going on, that's really neat. You get to kind of see the cookies being baked here, and that's very cool. So the newest news, what's happened here with Palantir, is this expanding in Japan through this partnership to drive AIP adoption. So essentially, I'm going to put a lot of this up there. I'm not going to read all of it. You can see it. But what is going on right now is that Palantir is essentially just spreading. Now, this isn't new news, but it is very new, and I didn't report it last week, so I just want to go over it so people know. But this is great nonetheless, and this is a situation of where we are seeing Palantir just continue to expand. I think this is undoubtedly there's two big phases left here with Palantir, not left, but next, and I think this is where Palantir, where this $1 trillion market cap can really be understood more with a lot of investors, big money, because a lot of the pushback that comes with Palantir right now is the majority of their money right now is with these government contracts that's a problem if it just stops. Well, I get the argument in that, but a lot of these government contracts too, they are happening, many years into the future at this point. These are some solid contracts. Two, with that, Palantir does have more companies that it works with. It's getting more. And, this is just another partnership. But what this is doing too, and what we've seen from Palantir this year, is really expand into a global company. So this is what is really going to push up numbers, even more aggressively here, especially, I kind of at this point, I'm kind of just what is 2026 going to bring for Palantir? So, we've got this expansion that's happening more and more with international deals, partnerships here. But two, Palantir, Alex Karp has talked immensely about the sales force that could, potentially happen here in the future, whether that's this coming year, 2026, 2027. I think it'll be here sooner than we think. But, Palantir pushing a sales force where Palantir actually says, hey, we're actually going to go out and start looking for some partnerships. We're going to start, asking, knocking on some doorknobs here and say hey, we have this product, we can help you here, and we're going to sign a contract. I think there's, as clear-cut bullet point as I'm trying to make that to everyone right now, I think that's essentially a next situation, next element that could happen here with Palantir. So you have these two big elements right now with Palantir where they've achieved so much success with these government contracts, and this is nothing new. This has been going on. It just keeps getting heavier. That's what's so unbelievable about it. But two, in gathering up these other contracts with these other companies that they've been working with, pushing their product, obviously advancing their product in such a short time frame too, breaking into these billion-dollar quarterlies plus, and even this year we're at least looking at somewhere around $4 billion in revenue, and for a company that 2 years ago was nowhere in that range, now they're having money in the bank. They're having this situation where they can just really advance themselves at a faster rate here if they spend the money right and place themselves in really good standing position here going into the future. So this is why Palantir is a very aggressive stock right now, because people are looking at this like this could really continue to get out of control. It's very unique, and this is something that that a lot of big investors, some people like Dan Ives, people like Tom Lee, other ones too, but I name them because they're ones a lot of people know. But where Palantir is unique in what they offer for their product, their software here, pretty much they are the kings of it. They are the ones that have it, and it is they're controlling it, who they're giving it to. So that is why they're able to have these huge contracts. That's why they're able to continue to grow at such a fast rate right now. Think of all the stuff we've gone through the last year here with Palantir. The NASDAQ 100, being entered into the S&P 500, such a young company in general, is now in the S&P 500. It's amazing. So we've got all this stuff that has happened. We've got all this stuff that is happening. Right now with Palantir just coming into this $1 billion quarterly position here, I really think this is a situation of where we can look at this and go like, well, this is just the start. This is just the start of what could be happening here. If this continues in this aggressive growth pattern right now, imagine what we could be looking at, 2 years from now. What does 2 more years look like in Palantir? It's really crazy to think about. Even if Palantir just, let's say this time next year, next August of 2026, maybe by that point, Palantir is producing $2 billion quarterlies. Now, obviously, that we've got to see even more growth, even more deals. I don't think it's impossible by any means. I say that because if you've been in the stock market here for even, say, the past year and a half, you've seen these tech stocks, these software stocks, AI stocks, whatever you want to call them at this point. You've seen them really make their own Roman roads here and make their own paths where they're going to go. And, this is where a lot of the bears come out and they go, well, this is impossible. There's ways that this is going to happen, in ways that this cannot happen. Companies just can't keep producing bigger and bigger quarterlies. The well has to run dry eventually. Well, we haven't seen the well run dry here with Palantir. It keeps getting deeper. And, it's not running dry for a lot of AI stocks right now. Snowflake just came out with a huge quarterly too, and everyone was like, people were just ripping that company, apart 2 weeks ago because they were like, don't count on these quarterlies being good. Well, look what just happened. SoundHound, I just talked about SoundHound. My God, look at what's going on with SoundHound right now, and people still want to go, well, it's amazing to me how bearish people want to be on good situations. They really do. And then with situations that aren't so positive, people want to stick with those. It's a very weird place for a lot of investors to, I don't know, to be. It's just, sometimes people just can't accept good situations in the market. It's really weird. And right now, Palantir even sitting at this 155 zone here, regardless, this stock is going to shoot back up into a 170, 180 position here, potentially this month, because of what the market could produce here with these rate cuts, with, the S&P 500 moving back up off of that news. There's still a lot more that can come here. I mean, my God, the company just captured this Japan partnership. I mean, this is amazing. They're still capturing deals, okay? This is still an aggressive moving company. And Palantir here is moving all throughout NATO, for God's sake. So there is, this is why, Q3 here that would come out here just in, 2 months and some days here with Palantir, it could be an unbelievable aggressive quarterly. If you thought Q2 here was like oh my God, Q3 here could have, it's going to have a lot more attached to it than even Q2. That's why analysts are already projecting Q3 for Palantir, those revenues, to be really, really big, okay? That's why you're seeing it hold this position. That's why you're seeing it fluctuate at such a crazy rate here in a $10 to $15 ratio, maybe just in 1 week. This is what we've seen. This isn't anything new. This has been going on. So if you're just getting the Palantir here, this isn't something new we're dealing with. This is something that's been going on with the stock. It's just a very lively stock. I mean, it's pumped full of rage here. So, obviously I have this right here. It says the road to 500. I do think there is a road to $500 a share with Palantir, as long as it keeps producing what it's doing right now. Okay. Now, Q3 back in 2024, the stock was at, $55. Q4 for 2024, we were in over $80. By Q1 of this year, we were well into, $120 plus. And now with Q2 here that's come out, pre-Q2, we were around 150, 160. Then, it came out. We went up to almost 190. Now we've had the drop back down to 155, 160 on a good day, trying to get back to 170. So Q3 here, more than likely, I believe, is going to push into $200. And then I think Palantir is just going to continue to do what it's been doing. It's going to continue to move up and find a new bottom. The new bottom, when Q3 comes out, as long as it continues to be another job dropping quarterly here, more than likely the new bottom, the future bottom here with Palantir, will be somewhere in the 170, 180 zone. That's the realistic situation that's coming. Now the new high, probably after quarterlies here, will probably be somewhere to 210. I really think that's where this thing is going to go. Now by Q4 of 2020, that's coming out in 2026 here to wrap up 2025, it's kind of hard to say, because there could be even more deals that are going to happen. What are we looking at 5 months from now? In January of next year, what is the S&P 500 going to be at 7,000 point range? What is Palantir going to be sitting at? It's crazy. So when people say there's not a lot of room left of growth with Palantir, I look at that and I go, well, that's just crazy talk. It's crazy. Why would you say that about a stock that is on top of each quarterly going from a 40, 45, 46, now 48, potentially 50 by Q3 percentage-wise on top of each quarterly? Why would you bet against that? Especially when when that Q2 just came out here, there was already deals that happened just a few weeks before that quarterly and after that quarterly. So that means Q3 is going to have even more money attached to it. These are huge breadcrumbs. These are huge indications of what's coming here, friends. Palantir is going to continue to rise up. I will be the first one to be on here on YouTube and say, like, hey, I would stop buying Palantir, because we haven't seen any new deals. We haven't seen any new progression in the stock. Things could slow down here, but we're not seeing that. We're not seeing that at all. We're seeing actually quite the opposite with Palantir right now. It's growing aggressively right now. It very much so. We've seen so many unique situations in the market here in the past year, especially. I mean, 2024 was such a teachable moment for the overall market, especially with these chip stocks, chip makers, the designers from the makers, all that, and just a lot of tech stocks in general that just went like, hey, the world is looking for innovation. The world is looking for AI companies to work for them, to work with. And we saw a lot of money, a lot of revenue come out of 2024, and 2025 is proven to be even bigger. I can only imagine what 2026 is going to be like. There's people right now buying Palantir at this 155 level that, as crazy as it may sound, this is going to be profit zone for you in the next 6 months. You're going to be deep in profit. Now, this road to $500, I mean, that could be this time next year. I don't want to talk about politics whatsoever. I really don't. But I believe if you are an investor, you have to look at that regardless. I really do. What we know is that Trump is spending loads of money on defense, tech, security, all that kind of stuff. Okay. We know that Palantir is working with the United States government more than it ever has. I mean, there's such a relationship there right now. It is growing immensely. That huge deal that just happened a month ago. I would suspect that this is going to get even bigger. This partnership, this friendship, okay, that's going to continue to grow. So this could just continue to get, this raising this fire, that just a inferno of a fire could continue to just really rage out of control 100%. Friends, I just want to wish everyone the best of luck. I really do mean that. I think there is just so much coming here in the market that it's really quite unbelievable, but it is going to be an amazing ride here finishing out the year and going into 2026. Friends, take care of yourself, and I will talk to you soon. Bye, everyone.